So when I heard Anna Koka Femeg the first time, I think it was at a relative's house. I can't really remember when it was, but it was before I started really collecting records, and especially Swedish progressive records. I've been looking for our original press ever since, like all people collecting Swedish prog, but they are super rare and very expensive. So when it was announced that they were reissuing this, I was super glad. And man, we are lucky to have this now. So this is my thoughts of the reissue of Anna Koka Femeg. But first, cue intro. Now, maybe some of you think that it's strange that I'm doing this in English, because this is a Swedish band and they sing in Swedish, mostly anyway, except for one song, I think. But my thought is this: Swedish progressive music is huge outside of Sweden also. There are bands singing in Sweden that is Swedish, that is really, really sought after, like November or Prog. So I think that there is definitely an interest for this record outside of the Swedish four walls, or whatever you want to call it. And with this review, I want as many as possible to know at least about this music, so that's why I'm doing it in English. And talking about English, what is the translation of this title? So brace yourselves now, because it's Anna is boiling 5 eggs. I am the host of this house. Pretty progressive, I think, at least. So let me just talk a little bit about the original press for just to start with. The band Anna Koka Femeg was founded in south of Sweden, in Skåne, in 1970, I think. And they released this record in 1975. It's a private pressed release, so the band released it with their own financial money, and they pressed it in 300 copies. So that's why it's so rare today. Hey katten. Okay, so say hi to Lisa. Ska du vara med? Inte? So the label behind the original press and also this reissue is Flärrp Records. So the band is releasing this private press. And I love these sort of quirky private pressed records. You know that by now. And I think that going with a private pressed, financing this themselves, is really the way to go, because this is a crazy record. And I say that in the most heartfelt, warm way I can. I say it in the most positive way I can. This is a crazy record. And it's so far from the sort of radio-friendly hit-making machine that you can go. So releasing this on a major label, if a major label would be interested in it, would definitely, in my opinion, I think at least, put unintentional sort of pressure on the band, and I don't think that we would have the product that we have today. So with the crazy quirkiness of the humor in the texts and lyrics, I think that on an international scale, maybe we can compare this to Frank Zappa and what he was doing in the 60s at least, where you have very humorous texts, aware texts, but also super good musicianship on it. With the quirky texts, if we go to bands in Sweden to compare this to, it's impossible not to compare this to Filmorata and the Dung. And for all you prog nerds out there, you know about Filmorata and the Dung. It's a duo of two guys that we have no idea about who they were. They are totally anonymous and have been since the 70s. No one knows exactly who did the music, who released it. And I don't think that anyone is getting any money for that release. It's a crazy record, to say the least. And there have been theories that Anna Koka Femeg is, some of them at least, are the brains behind Filmorata and Dung. I chose to not theorize around that sort of question, is Anna Koka Femeg Filmorata and the Dung, because I think that that iconic band and the mythicism around it and the anonymity behind that band is worth so much more than the sort of quest for finding the truth about that. If the truth was found, it would be like ripping away the cloth for Wizard of Oz, something like that. It just takes away the charm and the fun around it. So I'm not going to theorize. But music-wise, it's a little bit the same. I'm going to label this as a semi-acoustic record, but that's not the whole truth, because this has a pretty huge arrangement. But I think that with the flanging guitars and the flute and stuff like that, I think that it's a somewhat acoustic record. The entire record is definitely dipped in the sort of Swedish folk tradition. There's no question about it. But I also hear international, like maybe Oriental folk. And the only thing I can compare it to is because in the mid-70s, early 70s, mid-70s, we had a pretty huge musical sort of collaboration with Turkish musicians, especially on the jazz side. So I think that Swedish music and the sort of the pot that was boiling in the 70s with Swedish musicians and Turkish musicians pulling in that sort of world music aspect to it, maybe fell a little bit on the other progressive southern bands also, like this one. But that's just a theory. I definitely hear other folk influences than Swedish on this. The arrangements is fantastic, the musicianship is fantastic, and I think the structures of the songs also is fantastic. It's very melodic, easy to like and get into the songs, even if the lyrics are crazy batshit bananas sometimes. And I couldn't stop smiling when I listened to the record, not only for the humorous lyrics, but also because I think that, and I can't put my finger on it, I get a sort of UK 90s indie vibe for one reason or another. I can't really put my finger on what it is with the sound that makes me like flying to that very vibrant sort of new revolutionary rock sound. I have no idea. Also, when you're sitting down listening to it, you can really hear that the Swedish band Bob Hund has listened to this record both 1 and 2 times. It's almost like if Bob Hund did a cover record of this, no one would bat an eye that it wasn't a Bob Hund sort of record, both lyric-wise and music-wise, and how the songs are structured. So let's dig into what you get with this reissue. Now, first of all, we have to give our thanks to Liam Carlson, who did the mastering of this. The band didn't have the original master tapes, so what they had to do was to take a fine OG copy of the original press, and then digitally reissue it and fine-tune it to finally release as a reissue. And I have to say, they did a fantastic job, because this sounds good. It's a private pressed record, so I had very low expectations of the sound quality. I can't remember how the original press sounded like, but I can't imagine that this sounds so much worse than the original press, because this sounds terrific. As I said, I have had very low expectations of it, and I was blown away by the music quality and the sound quality of this. It's limited to 500 copies. I have number 439, and they are all hand numbered. You also get texts and chords in the form of copied paper. I don't know if this came with the original press. I have to look that up after this, but it's a nice sort of touch. Feels very do-it-yourself, homemade thing, and it adds to the sort of the flavor of the private pressed record. I guess this is 180 gram and comes with a yellow label. Now, I guess far from all reissues are without problems, and unfortunately this wasn't either. The B-side of this is in the wrong track order, if I understood it correctly, and I have to say that if I were involved in this sort of the project of releasing this product, and it came back from the press in the wrong order, with the titles in the wrong order on the B side, I would be super bummed out. But as a music aficionado and a collector of progressive original pressings, I have to say that just like the 1975 issue, issued in 300 copies and with this quirky lyrics and stuff like that, the entire vibe of the record, there was a charm with it, with that release. And with the wrong tracking order, with the reissue from 2021-22, I have to say that it adds a little bit to the charm, actually. And I was super interested in trying to get an original press before I got the reissue, but now I'm even more intrigued of getting the original press, because I want the one with like it sounded back in 1975, with the right track order. So a bummer for the label, or a bummer for the people involved in the project, but then again, I don't think that it's such a big deal for us music listeners. So to wrap this up, Anna-Koka 5 Ägg, my highest recommendations. And if you want to buy a copy, there are some copies left in stores around at least Sweden, and there's some on Discogs. But the label let me know that if you contact them on this email, and I'll leave the information down below in the description also, you can buy it directly from them for 250 Swedish crowns, which is 25 euro. But if I were you and you want this, I would hurry, because someone told me that there are not many copies left, and I don't know if they are going to repress this. But listen to it, see if you like it. If you like it, I would buy it now and not cry later. So yeah, that's it. I hope you liked this review. I loved doing it and diving deep into a very obscure prog record like this. And thank you so much, Flärrp Records, for giving me the opportunity to review it. And yeah, if you have any questions, write them down below. Have a great day, everyone, and talk to you in my next video.